Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the Steampunk Desperado channel. Recently, I finished the third book in Adrian Tchaikovsky's Children of Time trilogy. Wow. I've got to give the author kudos for his creativity, in particularly his world building, or rather, galaxy building. It's a millennia-spanning narrative that breaks the mold of your standard galactic war space opera. The basic theme is species uplift, and if you don't know what that is, I'll explain. That's not a novel idea anyway, but these books explore the concept in a deeper, more thorough fashion than other writers have. Also, I began thinking as I was finishing this last book, what is the author's message? Is there a particular political, social message that he's propounding? If so, it's complicated. Today we take a look at this amazing series, but beware there may be some partial spoilers within. There are three novels in this series: Children of Time, published 2015, Tor UK; Children of Ruin, 2019, also published by Tor UK; and Children of Memory, 2022, published instead by Orbit Books. Each of these three novels has multiple surprises, the first being the nature of the species being uplifted. It's not what you'd expect, not apes or whales or dogs or cats. And there's a different type of animal involved in each book. It's interesting that there are no pictures of these critters on the cover, just like there would have been in any Golden Age sci-fi book. You'd have seen it. Oh, it's an adorable talking cat wearing a smoking jacket. No, nothing like that here. The titles are also deliberately vague. I mean, Children of Time, what does that mean? About the setting. The time frame goes from a few hundred years in our future to many thousands. And though the narrative sometimes jumps back and forth, the author always specifies the timeline. In the early days, humans are busy exploring their stellar neighborhood and colonizing Mars and other nearby planets, and sending out sub-light speed robot ships to Earth-like worlds, which they're going to terraform and get ready for human colonists. That's because the planet is overpopulated and its environment is poisoned. At the same time, there are brutal wars being fought for the remaining resources, so things are getting worse. Expansion is necessary to save the human species. Plus, there are no apparent intelligent races out there. In fact, there doesn't seem to be any complex life at all, so that removes the ethical problem of terraforming. But there's a group that disagrees. They're called non-ultra natura, or nothing above nature. And they're trying to halt all human exploration and colonization. Many ships have already been sent out, however, so maybe they're safe. Maybe they've made it, or have they? As Children of Time opens, a colony ship has just arrived at a nearby star system after decades of travel. Its inhabitants wake after many years in cold sleep. But its purpose is not human colonization. It's a bold experiment to uplift another species on a newly terraformed world. This is scientist Avrana Kern's pet project to settle a colony of monkeys who will artificially be evolved to sapience using specially designed nanoviruses. This is what sci-fi writers mean by uplift. Taking an animal and making it into our equals. It's an idea that's been in the genre for a long time. The first possibly was The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells, but that involved surgically altered hybrid animals, so they were kind of more like monsters than human-like animals in their own right. Clifford D. Simak wrote about intelligent dogs in his book City in 1952, and those were actually kind of educated and propagated by humans, although DNA was not part of the equation at this point. In 1963, Pierre Boulez wrote Planet of the Apes, which spawned the popular film franchise starting in 1968, and that doesn't need any explanation. The term uplift appears to have been coined by David Brin in his 1980 novel Sundiver. In this book, humans have been modifying chimpanzees and dolphins to be our equals. I have read this book, and it's pretty good. Back to Vrana Kern, though. On the verge of her triumph, one of those NON sympathizers appears, detonates a bomb, sacrificing himself to destroy Kern's ship, and the monkeys aboard it. And so they're not going to settle this world. I mean, these people are pretty ruthless. The only thing that I thought was impossible was that with the diminishing resources of the Earth, that they'd be able to do a project like this. But suspend your disbelief and press on. The situation gets worse. Back on the dying Earth, these eco-terrorists have created a destructive computer virus and broadcast it into space. Its purpose is to destroy every computer that receives it, thus halting all space exploration. It's going to wipe out people on the colonies. It's going to kill people in ships in transit, and it's going to halt the terraforming projects in their tracks. And essentially, it's mass murder. So what few humans made it off are fleeing ahead of this deadly wave of transmitted computer virus. It's a race against extinction. On Kern's world, as we've started calling it, terraforming is complete. There's just no monkeys to go down there. There's an ecosystem with lots of earth, plants, and animals already. The nanovirus is waiting. It's designed to ignore all mammals because they don't want to have any serious competition for the monkeys. But having nothing else to do, it latches on to another species. That is Portia labiata, a uniquely intelligent breed of jumping spider. And they're native to Southeast Asia. And thus, these little creatures start thinking and planning. At first, their lifespan is just 2 years. So we follow several generations of spiders, which seem to have similar personalities that are almost inherited, which is part of the deal. They are inheriting their experiences. And these characters are called Portia, interesting, or Bianca, because they're mainly female. They're spiders. Now, the spiders get bigger and bigger until they're the size of dogs. They get longer and longer lived until they can live many years. They still face existential challenges, such as the ants. The ants have been partially uplifted by the nanovirus. They are smarter, but they still aren't thinking. But still, that makes them very, very dangerous. They're taking over the whole world with their colonies, and they may just crowd out the spiders. Also, a human colony ship arrives, and they need to settle here. Their ship is about ready to go kaput. And the spiders are already there, though. The world's already populated. So is it us or them? Is it the humans or the spiders who are going to triumph? Meanwhile, Vrana Kern is still around to help the spiders. Yes, she uplifted her personality into a surveillance satellite, and it's been an AI essentially, and she's partially brain damaged because of the haste and so on, but she sympathizes with spiders, and she wants the human beings gone. And so that's part of the challenge. These people have nowhere else to go. How will it end? You have to read it and find out. This is not the first time that sci-fi writers have explored the idea of sentient or sapient spiders. Werner Vinge had it in his book A Deepness in the Sky, 1999, which was one of my very favorite books ever, and I reviewed it as part of his Zones of Thought series on this channel. These aren't Earth spiders, however. These are spider-like aliens on a special world around a very strange star. The Spider Society is not the only idea that reminds me of Werner Vinge that I encountered in this series. I'm assuming that Tchaikovsky read Vinge's books. Not that there's anything wrong with him using the ideas. You can't copyright an idea. And it's exciting that he is taking Vinge's ideas forward. After all, Werner has passed on. He's not here to do that. Tchaikovsky's here in his place. The particular spiders in this book are, of course, earth spiders. And it is weird to think that we and they, being so different, evolved on the same planet. If not for an accident of fate, perhaps, they could have inherited the world instead of us. Though species uplift is a fascinating concept, the Children of Time series is way more than that. It brings us to our second topic, perception. Though the story is entirely in third person, it's told from many different viewpoints, some of which have an unusual perspective. Some might be called unreliable narrators, which is an interesting device in fiction. For example, Ivana Kern, because as I said, her personality, her brain, her mind was kind of damaged when it was transferred to the AI. So it's not quite entirely certain that she's even sane. She is again prioritizing the spiders over the human beings, but she was never really very fond of her fellow humans anyway. The spiders, of course, have their own very unique perception of life and the world, and their senses are different, and everything's different, and just the way their sex roles are. Females are in charge, of course, and for the first few thousand generations, males are just for mating and when you get tired of them, for eating. Now later that changes as the spider's perception changes. And there's some kind of heroic male characters as the story goes along. As for the message, a lot of the writers in this postmodern era, they want to hit you over the head with this really simplistic message. And Tchaikovsky's, I think, is far more nuanced, which is good. On the one hand, Earth is being destroyed by bad decisions of people, by greed, by short-sightedness. On the other hand, these Greens are horrifically murderous terrorists. They're the worst villains in the book. They want to basically kill human civilization. There's also the notion of extreme diversity in intelligent beings. Can such disparate creatures like spiders and humans actually coexist? I mean, we have enough trouble with white people and black people and Asians and so on all coexisting in the same society. And so is he trying to say something? Good question. I'm not quite certain what the message is. As I said, the first book was acclaimed by critics, so I was wondering, how can T surpass it? How can Tchaikovsky do better? And he did. This time he introduced a group of terraformers with a unique dilemma. The world they had as their target already had life, so they decide we don't want to destroy it. It's very interesting, very different. No intelligence, but very strange and complicated. Instead, they go to the next world, which is colder. Turns out it's full of water. So instead, they seed octopuses, which is the next unlikely candidate for Uplift. Now, if you've read Ray Naylor's Mountain in the Sea, 2022, you'll have encountered that idea, but Tchaikovsky did it first. And I have reviewed Naylor's book too. Anyway, the terraformers experiment is going to take many human lifetimes. So they're putting themselves in cold sleep, waking up, checking on it, and so on. And their surveillance satellites just don't tell them anything interesting, or they don't tell them enough about the other world, Nod, which they call it, where all the alien beings are. So they go down there, they visit, and there they encounter an entity they didn't expect, a very dangerous entity that can possess other minds. Not only humans, but it can attack octopuses as well. It's a danger to both societies and even to the whole galaxy. Can it be subdued? Can it be surpassed? Can the humans survive? Can the octopuses survive? You have to read it to find out. After reading this, you'll never hear the phrase, "We're going on an adventure," without feeling a shiver of fear. No doubt you recognize that concept, an alien organism that takes over other beings. That's like the Borg. But this is not with a ship. This is more like a virus, much like in Werner Vinge's 1992 Fire Upon the Deep. As with the first, the second book has conflicting themes. There's the extreme threat from outside, but which is the proper response? Extermination or negotiation? Providing the alien entity can actually understand this concept. The third book, Children of Memory, dials the alienness back quite a bit. It deals with perception in the context of a human colony world. This world, Emir, was settled by one of the great archships that left after all the final wars and after that horrible computer virus. It found a world that was only partly terraformed. There's air and water, not much else, not any good soil or anything. So they got to do it themselves. And they have a very limited library of DNA samples on their ship. After many generations, they're getting along, but they are struggling. And an exploratory vessel crewed by spiders, yes, our friends, the Portiids, the Portia spiders, they come in to explore, and they have on their ship, they have humans and octopuses. Yes, they are coexisting. And there's another species that is the new species on this particular book, which I'll get to in a little bit. But the humans are on the brink of ecological disaster, not because of any mistakes they've made, but because their technology wasn't up to the task of producing an ecosystem that was infinitely sustainable. Thus, the colonists are now deeply paranoid. And they're resentful upon realizing that there are outsiders among them, that is, the infiltrators. They proceed to eliminate the threat in a very brutal way. Then suddenly it changes and the story plays out differently. Is time travel involved? There does seem to be a powerful alien entity at work here, a different one. And again, you'll need to read it to find out. I found this book simultaneously more interesting but a bit disappointing because on the surface it seems to be the same kind of morality tale that you see all too often in books these days, with a group of colonists that are closed-minded, xenophobic males. They're initiating violence against these outsiders. They don't even know them. They don't realize the outsiders are going to help them. But on a deeper level, that may not be what's happening at all. The reader must wonder if any of the narrators are reliable. In that sense, it's mind-bending, just like Philip K. Dick's most classic books. As far as the new uplifted species, that is the rocks from the world of rock. They are hybrid magpie ravens, much like Heckle and Jekyll, the cartoon, if you remember that, because they can talk. And they remind me a lot of those characters because they're really hilarious. There's two rocks on board. They are Gethley and Gothy, and they're always like wisecracking to each other, and they are very funny. And now the thing about these creatures is that they're only sapient together because one of them gathers data, the other processes it. This is again like Benji's book, Fire Upon the Deep, in which they had a species that was only intelligent in packs of 4 or more. They were dog-like. They were called the Tines. So again, he's adapting this pretty cool idea. One question keeps coming up in Children of Memory, however, is are the rocks actually self-aware? Do they think? And when they ask Gethley and Gothy this, they say, well, no, we don't, and no, we aren't, which is pretty funny. I mean, how can that be? How can they know that? It makes no sense. It raises the question of can anybody ever truly say if you're really self-aware? Could they be sentient without being sapient? It reminds me of the AI that we have now. It almost seems to be intelligent, but it clearly isn't. It's definitely mind-bending stuff. The first 2 books won awards, the Arthur C. Clarke Award and the British Science Fiction Writers Award, respectively. The trilogy received a award as a unit in 2023 for the best series. So how did Tor UK not continue them? Why did they have to go to Orbit Books? Well, he is a straight white male. I don't know if that's the problem. As for Tchaikovsky, he started writing seriously in his 30s and won a competition for his short story, The Roar of the Crowd, but the magazine went out of business before it was published, but he kept on, and he finally published The Empire in Black and Gold, his first novel, with Tor UK, which was before self-publishing, I understand. This is part of The Shadows of the Apt, a 10-part fantasy series with steampunk elements, which I have not read, but I may have to now. So Children of Time was not his first hit. Which brings us back to the question, is Children of Time's primary message another kumbaya type of glorification of multiculturalism and that kind of thing? It might be because his Wikipedia entry says something about being opposed to totalizing governments and wars of aggression, though he could easily be talking about communism because he's of Polish descent. And the Poles didn't have a good experience with that. He might say, perhaps, that I'm a bad person for opposing immigration, including refugees, because the human colonists on Kern's world were refugees. However, they had no place else to go. Current refugees are often just economic migrants who could easily go back home, but liberals are so bent on helping them, whether they actually need it or not, whether the native population wants it or not. One more point, though, I have to make, though, is in Children of Time, the refugees must accommodate themselves to the host culture of the spiders. The spiders don't feel obligated to change their ways to make the newcomers feel less uncomfortable. The few who cannot live alongside them, they gotta live on a reservation somewhere, which is only fair. They're sharing their world willingly. So my conclusion is that Children of Time's message is a nuanced one. It's not a hit you over the head idea one way or the other. And it's one of the many reasons, besides the creativity and the profound philosophical questions, that I recommend it so highly. If you haven't tried these books yet, by all means do so. This has been my review of Adrian Tchaikovsky's Children of Time series. Hope you liked it. Please let me know what you think about it in the comments. Please like and subscribe. And check out my works on Amazon. Links are in the description. As always, again, I will plug my newest book, Hunter's Wager, which, if I don't say so myself, has a nuanced message of its own. Is right always right, despite the situation? Or are there extenuating circumstances in which morality can be changed and bent? Read it and find out. This has been the Steampunk Desperado saying adios amigos from the Steampunk Desperado channel, where the past meets the future and the present is extraordinary.